Steel Curtain Network.
¡Pique da piques! ¡Pique da piques! ¡Pique da piques!
Hey, Steeler fans, what's going on? This is Jeff Hartman, and it's a Steelers postgame show, a victory Steelers postgame show. Another one, still can't believe it, but nonetheless, we did get some Pickett to Pickens today. Joining me, as always, Dave Schofield. What's up, Dave? How's it going?
Not too much, Jeff. That was a very interesting game, but the Steelers just took over late. Anytime you can go touchdown, 3-and-out touchdown, it's a great thing.
Better late than never, I guess.
Yes.
Is a good way of putting it. Bryan, what's going on?
I am elated. First time since 1948, since this series started, that the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Los Angeles Rams in a regular season game in Los Angeles. That has me just thrilled.
Yeah, I mean, that was talked about a lot, and everyone knows about the West Coast woes in the Mike Tomlin era, but the Steelers find a way to win, and like we always start off every single post-game show, it is with our knee-jerk reaction. So, Dave, I'm going to start with you. Go ahead. What was your knee-jerk reaction?
Poorly officiated game, both ways. Lots of questionable things there. Steelers still... The philosophy of let's not play well offensively until the fourth quarter and hope our defense keeps us in the game until that long has already bit them twice. Can we get it going a little bit sooner, please? But hey, you were there. You were in the game. It was the fourth quarter. You got it done. You win by 7. You scored 3 offensive touchdowns. Well, one of them was set up by the defense. So you got to be happy with that. But at the same time, there's still room to grow, meaning it's a 60-minute game. You can't ignore the first 30.
Brian Davis, what's your knee-jerk reaction?
So Dave is right. There's still room to grow. There's also still room to grow up with this team, and they really need to. Now, I'm not sour graping the whole thing because I am absolutely elated. But I will say this is something that we have hung our hat on for the last couple of weeks, and we will say Deontay Johnson makes a big difference for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that was shown time and time again in this game.
I'm going to actually just have it in one sentence. My knee-jerk reaction. Thank God for TJ Watt. That's it. That's literally it. I put it out on Twitter during the game. I said, could you imagine this team without TJ Watt? And everyone's like, they would be close to the first overall pick if they didn't have TJ Watt. He is that big of a deal. People that aren't Steeler fans don't get it because they don't watch them enough. But he makes these plays like that interception that completely turn the tide. They're just starting the second half. The Rams have all the momentum, and then just like that, he injects the team back into it. That's exactly what he does. Thank God for TJ Watt. We're going to put it that way. That's how I'm going to do my knee-jerk reaction. We have some super chats to get to here. Let's do that right away. Tyler W., he gives us $5. There we go. They can't keep letting us get away with this, but they do. That's right. They do. Somehow, some way, the Steelers keep finding a way to win. Tom Plays Games, or Tom Muir, longtime listener, said $1 per W. He gives us $4. Ugly wins are still wins. Bad spot or not. We will talk plenty about that bad spot and other officiating blunders as we want to put them. Kyle Smith gives us $5. Says DJ and Pickens can't do that, but this league is soft. You're less likely to get flagged for a shoving match than jawing or shushing. Great win. Thank you all for the tips. We do appreciate it. Anyone that gives us a super chat, we will put that on the air. Just remember that we're going to try to keep the flow of the show going. So if we have to save some of them, we will. Let's get this to Outside Steeler Fan. Give us $4.99. Said, I believe Kenny unplugged his mic in his helmet.
No.
I honestly am not really on that train anymore. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. Let's go with Andrew Hill gave us $4.99, but didn't leave a message. Dave, do you see it?
I'll keep an eye. Well, that's the last message on here, so I'll wait for the next one Andrew puts up there. We'll bring up.
Yes, very good. All right, man, this game is something else. This team is something else. The Steelers are somehow, some way 4-2, and they needed it on a day where the AFC North, they found a way to win as well. So the Steelers keep pace. Let's just go with the standard breakdown. We're going to go through offense, defense like we always do. We're going to break it down by the numbers, but we're also going to get our own thoughts as well. Here we go. I got it from Andrew. You got it?
From
no rushing touchdowns to 3. How about it? That's pretty impressive. Good stuff there. Let's get Andrew Palladino's up here on the screen real quick. He said, the pleasure is worth the pain no matter how bad it gets. And man, it hurt badly today for 45 minutes. Love yins. Here we go. Thank you, Andrew. We do appreciate it for sure. All right, so let's start off with the quarterback, right? Kenny Pickett did not look good early in this game. Finishes 17 of 25, 230 yards, 9.2 yard average. He had a rushing touchdown, but not a throwing touchdown. No interceptions again. Was sacked 2 times, 97.1 passer rating. Let's start with you, Dave. What do you think about the quarterback, Kenny Pickett? Go ahead.
Well, I wish we would get more from Kenny Pickett throughout the whole game. How many yards did you say he had?
Let me go back to that tab. He
200.
had 230. That's not counting yardage off from sacks.
Yeah, 138 of those yards on 7 of 7 completions were in the fourth quarter.
Wow.
Okay, his quarterback rating for the fourth quarter, 7 for 7, 138, no touchdowns but no interceptions, was 118.8. So I love fourth quarter Kenny Pickett. I would just love to have 4 quarters of fourth quarter Kenny Pickett.
That's a good way of putting it. Bryan, what are your thoughts on KP8?
He's got a better record than Josh Allen does. He's got a better record than Justin Herbert does. It's really funny. Kenny Pickett in this game did enough to win and then some. I really loved what he did in this game. Yeah, 3 rushing touchdowns is amazing. Was he perfect? No. Was the play calling perfect? No. Did he turn off his microphone and his helmet? I
don't think he has the power to do that.
Yeah, I don't think he does. I think I'm going to keep on going back, and we're going to talk about it more and more. He has his safety valve back. He's got Deontay Johnson back. He's able to see more of the field with him. That doesn't mean that he is not struggling. That doesn't mean that he's done either. It just means that Kenny Pickett grows up each and every time he steps on that field. And Terry Bradshaw, who was very critical of Steeler quarterbacks, Steeler coaching, Steeler everything, called Kenny Pickett after the game the perfect Pittsburgh quarterback. He's mature, he's loved, he's a leader, and he does what he needs to do. I think he needs more time, but win's a win, and there's not a stat line. You see this. You see W, you see L, and you see T. You do not see U, G, L, Y together.
So the Kenny Pickett narratives is really quickly starting to turn. It was all Matt Canada and it was all his fault. Well, now people are starting to say, well, now this looks like it's Kenny Pickett's not the guy. Well, you can see it in the first half. The offensive protection schemes were just way off. I mean, there were free rushers coming at Kenny Pickett early and often.
You couldn't block them all when you saw the way they were coming.
And that made it look really, really ugly. And then here's the biggest thing that changed. Now, Dave, you probably have the second half numbers in front of you. How many yards rushing did the Steelers have in the second half?
In the second half, I can tell you right now that they had 52 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, so 52. I think they only rushed for something like 80.
57 in the second half. Because remember, until the Steelers had the drive with TJ Watt setting them up at the 6, they had a 3 and out, and then they got the ball back right at the very end of the third quarter. They did not. I mean, I think here, if I look at just the third quarter, they only ran the ball 3 times in the third quarter and threw it 5. They had 8 plays.
Right, only 8 plays. So here's
so it was the fourth quarter. That was what it was.
Kenny Pickett needs what Ben Roethlisberger had early in his career, and that's called a running game.
Yeah.
When the Steelers run the ball, everything else is copacetic. He is not a quarterback. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not some of these guys that can go out and just sling the rock and we're going to win it that way. I'm just going to go out there and throw it to victory. He isn't that guy, at least not yet in his career. When they start to run the ball effectively is when Kenny Pickett starts to settle in. Why? The defense can't pin their ears back and send all these blitzes and rushers. When they start getting some yards per clip, you saw Najee Harris starting to turn it on. Jaylen Warren did his thing. all of a sudden Kenny Pickett starts to have a little bit more comfortability. It starts to change the way the defense can do, and you start to see him making different throws, not just outside the numbers, but down the middle. I thought one of his best throws was the throw that George Pickens gator armed because he made a business decision. That was a great throw to the middle. Like, that's the throw everyone's been wanting him to make.
That dude was looking to light Pickens back up after he did that
exactly.
earlier in the game.
He made a business decision. I get it. But I'm saying that that's what needs to happen for Kenny Pickett to succeed. They need to be able to run the football. And if they can't run it, that's when they struggle, because now it's all on his shoulders and he's just not that guy yet. So for me, I think that's where I stand with Kenny Pickett at this point. He will go as the running game goes. And maybe that's something I should go back and take a look at. And in the losses, how did they run the ball? Maybe this is a stat geek thing. Dave, you can feel free to take it if you want it. But I guarantee you will see a correlation between the running game and when the Steelers run the ball well, Kenny Pickett actually starts to turn it on. So any other thoughts on Kenny Pickett?
We'll talk about the run game a little bit later. So,
okay. Bryan, any other thoughts on Kenny Pickett or Dave? Either one?
No, I'm ready to roll.
When you're 4-2, KP8 is great.
Yeah. So I do want to bring up the offensive line next, because I think with Kenny Pickett, he was sacked twice. You look at the LA Rams, the quarterback hits category, they hit him 7 times. 7 times. But what was interesting is that Aaron Donald did have 2 quarterback hits, and that was it. He had 4 total sacks. None were solo. They really did negate kind of his impact on the game. He did impact the game. He's Aaron Donald, for crying out loud. But what did y'all think about the offensive line in general? Dave, we'll start with you.
Well, I wanted to say this specifically about the running game. Notice they had a lot more success running to the left side of the offensive line. Yep. They went to go back and try to run to the right, and they got bottled up. They were getting between Isaac Seumalo and, I'm sorry, Dan Moore Jr. was blocking very well in the run game. That's where they were really getting going. So even with some of those early plays where they were sending more guys and poor Jalen Warren's trying to pick up 2 blitzers coming through the same hole when he's just trying to figure out which one he could try to stop. I don't know all those things were necessarily on the offensive line there. I thought overall they really kicked it in late in the game as well. It just seemed like everything was finally coming together. I just wish the entire offense could get it together a little bit sooner.
Bryan, what about you? Thoughts on the offensive line?
Isaac Seumalo has really come into his own, and I agree with Dave on Dan Moore Jr. A lot of people are upset that Broderick Jones was not starting in that game. I don't know how many snaps that he did get. It doesn't matter. They protect Kenny enough. Now you're right. Those protection schemes were off in the first half. They came out and they definitely did some kind of adaptation in the second half. And it's very weird to see in the National Football League a team come from behind in the second half and have 3 rushing touchdowns in the second half. Yeah. Usually, if you have to come from behind, it's all pass plays. Now, the pass plays help set that up. I'm not going to say anything against that. I'm just saying that they had more of a mix, and the offensive line helped allow that.
Yeah, the protection schemes were bad. I got a text from Kevin Smith, who does the Here We Go Steelers show with Bryan every Tuesday morning. And he's like, what the hell did these guys do over the bye week? I said, he's like, the protection schemes are so off. I said, is that on Pickett or the line? He said, it's on both. He said Pickett's either got to see it and shift them like he did against the Ravens on the final, the big pass play to George Pickens. He said, but the offensive line's got to diagnose as well. They've got to call out the protection schemes, and they've got to shift things on their own. He said they were missing all over the place. Mike Tomlin at halftime sounded really bad. He said, they were doing some stuff we weren't prepared for. We'll make adjustments. They did make adjustments, and they did play better in the second half. You do have to give them credit for that. I think it was Dave, might have been Bryan. Isaac Seumalo, I thought, played a great game. Probably his best game as a Steeler, really paving the way in the running game. It was good to see them run the ball into the end zone a few times. That was fun to see. All right, let's talk about those running backs, shall we? The Steelers rushing, well, we mentioned already the second half numbers in terms of how well they ran the ball in the second half. They total of 29 carries, 86 yards, a 3-yard average. They scored 3 rushing touchdowns. The longest run was actually 13 yards. Najee Harris led the way, 14 carries for 53 yards, a 3.8 average. Jalen Warren, 6 for 32, 5.3. And I'll go ahead and say it right now. Mike Tomlin said it after the game when he asked, like, what do you think about Najee or Jalen? He said, we need them both. And I agree with that. Dave, what are your thoughts on the running backs?
Yeah, they need them both. It's it really is good. And people don't always notice when they're both on the field. They've been lining up Jalen Warren in what I would call a wing position. People would say an H-back or whatever. A number of times when both running backs are on the field. Eventually, you're going to see them use that. You will. But they need them both. The longest run was the touchdown run by Warren. And as you said, it was 87 total rushing yards. Remember, they lost 5 inside of 2 minutes to end the game. They lost 5 total yards on kneel downs. And they had another kneel down at the end of the first half. So that takes it a little bit. But I mean, man, 52 yards of that was in the fourth quarter. That's really what jumps out to me.
What about you, Brian? What are your thoughts on the running backs?
All right, I need to do this calculation real quick. What is 68 divided by 17, Dave? Could you get that for me real quick?
4.
It's 4 exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. The reason I'm going to ask that, a lot of people might have a problem with 3.8 yards per carry for Najee Harris. But when you throw in 3 catches for 15 yards, and those catches, Najee Harris as a receiver is very important to this team as well. That shows that he is averaging 4 yards a touch now. I also think that with Najee Harris, I think scheming has a lot to do with what makes him better and what makes him struggle, because that outside run that they tried very early in the game, I don't know whether it was the first, second, or third possession. I think it was the second possession, but they tried an outside run on a sweep, and that's not really where Najee Harris is going to excel for this team. So I would love to see them run Najee Harris more, but remember, the game, the first half had to dictate what you did in the second half, and there were a lot less runs in the second half because you had to pass the ball. Even though I just said that it's rare to see all those rushing touchdowns in a second half, but the fact that you were able to push it in by using all those passes, that's a good thing. The pass helped set up those rushing touchdowns. But I think as they go along and as they get more even, they're going to figure out exactly how to use these 2 running backs so much better. Jalen Warren, he is very necessary as well. So all I'm going to say is, yeah, I'm fine with the running backs because they're becoming more of an even team. And you can't have a bad running game and a good passing game. You've got to have closer to even on that. And I think as you go, it's going to happen.
Yeah, you bring up yards per carry, and I know that people love to see a certain number there, and we always mention it when we read the stat line. This offense is so crappy right now that I'm not about to start nitpicking individual stat lines that aren't something huge, like turnovers and fumbles and things like that. And that goes across the board. That's not just with the running game. They ran the ball the way they needed to in the second half. The question about this offense in general is, can they ever do anything consistently? They have yet to prove that they can do any of this consistently, and they still feel like a rudderless ship. They have no identity. So therefore, I think you look at it and say, well, what could they do well against Jacksonville next week? I don't know. No one knows, but I'm not about to nitpick, people out there that might say, well, his 3.8, whatever. They're finding ways to win games somehow, some way. And I didn't think the running backs were a reason why they did. They ran well in the red zone. I think that's big. But they didn't lose the game, and they didn't lose it because of the running backs either. So to give you an example, I thought that the first offensive series was very emblematic of the Steelers offense, right? Najee Harris gets the ball, runs 8 yards, really good run, tough run. Second down, sack, third down, incompletion, 3 and out.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about you want to get in front of the chains. It was 2nd and 2.
I know. So it's definitely one of those things where for me, you just want to see some progress. Like we saw that a little bit in the second half, but it's still not there yet. Let's talk about the pass catchers, tight ends, and wide receivers. Receiving, George Pickens leads the way with 107 yards receiving, 5 catches, 8 targets. Deontay Johnson, 5 catches, 79 yards at 39-yard long for him. That nice catch and run. Connor Hayward, 2 for 23. Najee Harris, 3 for 15. Guys, what did you think about the pass catchers on this day? Dave, we'll start with you.
Well, I will be honest with you. It was nice to see this. I was surprised by it, but it was nice to see on official plays, because remember, when there's a penalty and you have to redo it down, it doesn't count, that George Pickens was targeted more than Deontay Johnson. I didn't feel like they came back and forced the ball to Deontay Johnson. I know Jeffrey Benedict, who I miss dearly, used to always say whenever the Steelers throw, target Deontay Johnson too many times, it's actually worse for their offense. Well, that seemed to be the case today. They didn't target him too many times. They turned to him when they needed to. George Pickens, other than making the business decision, stepped up. Can't there's some more super chats in there that we have. Can't have the reactions that those guys did. I'll be honest with you. The one with Deontay Johnson, I thought it was a weak penalty for both things. I thought it was a weak penalty for the pass interference. I thought it was a weak penalty for the taunting of, he's celebrating and he just says, quiet with your celebration. You just got a flag, but I guess.
And those guys were teammates last year. There's a
I
good chance
know
that they were like joking with each other.
And there was a fun pat on the back too.
Yeah.
And that's when the guy threw the flag. That's when the official threw the flag, was when he touched him. And I'm like, man, what is going on?
But let me throw in on that real quick. It's still one of those things to me, though, that even if you've got to know that they're looking at that stuff now. That's why I put out a tweet about some Steeler players need to grow up. With taunting penalties are ridiculous. And that's sometimes you can say something by saying nothing at all. That's all for the post-game handshake. That's when you do it.
It's a good point. Bryan or Dave, were you done with your assessment?
Yeah, I was good.
Okay, Bryan, you go ahead.
Yeah. As far as everything with the receivers, I think they're running clean routes. I don't want to jinx this, but we're not complaining about drops this year like we have in the last 5.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like we have. I feel like they're a lot more sure-handed than they ever were. Now, next week, they'll probably drop some footballs because I'm jinxing them. But all I'm saying is I feel so much better with that. I feel that the receivers are becoming a pretty good unit here. I'd like to see George Pickens finish more. I would finish more routes. I think that he is one of the best receivers in the league. I think he can do so much more. And let me throw this on. I'm sure somebody's going to throw up in the live chat, oh, you're complaining about George Pickens. What do you want? He got 107 yards. No, I want to see him continue to improve. I don't think 3.8 yards a carry is a bad thing. People complain about it, though. They don't think you're an elite runner if you do that. So I'm just bringing up the fact. None of the three of us are complaining about Najee Harris. They got the job done. The receivers are getting the job done. Connor Hayward is adding something to that team as well.
Good, Dave.
I want to ask you guys a question. Any thoughts on 0 targets for Darnell Washington?
He's just he's an extra tackle at this point.
Yeah.
So you would hope that at some point they're gonna put him down the seam and no one's gonna pick him up, because every time he's on the field, there's basically like when 72 was eligible when Zach Banner used to go out there. That's the way I view it. Bryan, what do you think?
Yeah, it's he's gonna work his way in, and just like this, I'm seeing a lot of pundits out there saying Darnell Washington isn't getting used. They don't know how to use this player. They're holding him back, or he must not be doing something in practice. Look, it's kind of a rookie progression. If you go back in time, one of the things that we just talked about this the other night, the rookie year of Troy Polamalu. I'm not talking about the bust thing. I'm saying guys like Troy Polamalu and Ike Taylor were brought in later on in the process and they were eased in, just like Joey Porter Jr. is getting eased in. And now he's finding his way on the field more and more. So with Darnell Washington, I think he's being eased. I think that's all there is to it. We'd like to see him more, but it's not a problem when you have a capable tight end like Connor Hayward. You have a capable tight end in Rodney Williams as well, even though he didn't get targets, but it was nice to see 87 out there. And you know what you have in Pat Freiermuth. And when you have guys you trust, not just in George Pickens and Deontay Johnson, now you have Allen Robinson, which is a major safety valve for Kenny Pickett. That just means that there's not a whole bunch of balls to go around. It's easy for us to say, hey, he should be getting more, but you've got to go and tried and true and trusted sometimes.
So before I throw it back to Dave, because I know Dave wanted to say something, let me just add that real quick. When you're struggling to gain 2 yards of offense, you want to throw it to the people that that are the closest thing to a guarantee as possible.
That's what I meant by tried and true.
Yeah, and so that's Deontay Johnson. That's typically a Pat Freiermuth when he's healthy, and even George Pickens has turned into that. And so I don't think they're going to turn to a Darnell Washington, even though it might be open sometimes. They're struggling to get 2 yards. Like that's a legitimate concern sometimes with this team. But what were you going to say?
Yeah, because what I was going to say to you then, Jeff, was ask you, well, not only was it Washington, Calvin Austin didn't get a target. He had one carry, but he wasn't targeted in the passing game. Is that exactly what you're saying about the Deontay Johnson's back? You're not going to need to use
with Deontay Johnson back. Calvin Austin now turns into a gimmick player. And so that means that every time he's on the field, red flag, 19 is on the field. And it's going to be tougher for them to scheme him open until they start using him more. But then again, why would you ever have 3 wide receiver sets when they struggle to move the ball the way that they do, the way that they struggle to protect the way that they do? So they're really have their hands tied in a lot of ways. So yes, we would love to see him open it up more. They got to be able to protect. They got to be able to do all the little things better as well. So let's get to some super chats here, because I have a feeling that we'll have some questions about some of the stuff going on. Isaac Aguilera gives us $5, said currently leaving the stadium. Wow, what a win. Awesome. I forgot that Isaac's a West Coast guy. I think Michael Beck is actually at this game too. I remember he said he was going to some of these West Coast games. So Isaac, hope you enjoyed it. Glad they got a win. That crowd was
You were
loud.
one of many there, Isaac. One of many.
That crowd was loud. It was awesome to see that. Let's go to Cass. He gives us $4.99. Says I might be a believer in Canada again. Was good to see some enthusiasm in the booth. Some big wins elsewhere in the division today, though. I'm sorry. If I was Matt Canada, I would have, for those that are watching live, this is what my reaction would have been. So let's say the camera is here, okay? So like I'm calling the plays, score a touchdown, I would have done this. And just looked right at the camera, deadpan, no emotion, and just stared at it. That's all I would have done. So funny. But no, he did show some enthusiasm. Good for him. So there you go.
Now, for those of you on audio, Jeff just had a nice deadpan look into the camera. It was fantastic.
Was that blue steel?
Yeah. That would have been better. That's what I mean, because you know that little camera is like about a $50 size, and they put it in the corner. Yeah. He knows it's there. Mm-hmm. I probably would have stood and just looked. It would have been the best GIF ever. Okay,
Jeff, I would like an eye roll.
Or just flip them off would be even better. All right, Topher.
I have his next one.
Okay, go ahead and throw it up.
Yep, there it is.
George Pickens needs to have a cool head. Those penalties can cost us games. There's a fine line between showing good emotion and then going overboard, and especially now, my gosh, like we talked about Deontay Johnson, if they're flagging that, you got to be super careful. You have to be super careful. And what sucks is as a viewer of the game, and there's times that someone, let's say Landon Roberts comes up and makes a huge hit in the hole. Guy goes backwards. He stands up and walks over top of him. I'm ready for him to throw a flag with that. That's the way the game is now. Like, I feel like every single time someone does anything even remotely taunting, which is such a vague term. Brian, what were you going to say?
Yeah, somebody brought this up in the live chat. I did not see this. Did on a Deontay play, on a big catch by Deontay, did George Pickens headbutt somebody in the background?
No, it wasn't a headbutt. It was the crackback block. That was the play that would have put them back down at the 8. Would put them at the 8-yard line, and it got them back up and penalized the field goal. Yeah,
one of the many self-inflicted wounds the Steelers.
So if that play is allowed to go through, does do both Deontay and George probably come close to having 100 yards now?
Well, he still got credit for some of those yards because it happened so far downfield.
Okay.
But yeah.
The play happened. Yeah. All right.
It
Let's go
counts
to
as a catch.
Afton.
He just doesn't get all the yards for it.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Afton Ford gave us $2. Said DJ made an impact.
Yes, he did.
There's no way that anyone could say that he didn't make an impact, even if you are Shannon White, the biggest Deontay Johnson hater we have at Steel Curtain Network. I'm sure that even he would say that he made an impact. Afton Ford also gives us $2. Said shout out to Mom who saw the first half from Egypt. Oh, that's
whoa!
What's Kathy doing in Egypt?
Kathy, they're in Egypt. Hopefully she's staying safe is what she's doing. Let's go with Steeler Nation Australia. Gave us $5 dingo. He said if Tomlin doesn't get credit for this win, stone the Flaming Crows. I'll be angry. Struth Cobber. What is he?
I miss Mark Davis.
Marky D have one too many Fosters during this game. I don't know. Or we just lost in translation.
I have no idea what this means. But
thank you know what? But I absolutely love it. I will tell you that.
Yes, absolutely.
Give us more, Marky D.
Let's go with Sean the Don. Gives us $5. Do you think there's any way Canada's here next year? And how much of our O-line successes and struggles belong to Pat Meyer? So this was going to be the last topic here before we switch over and transition to defense, and that is Matt Canada. Dave, what did you think about Matt Canada in this game and the play calling?
Once again, it's frustrating. There are times you could tell that the play call was just not good.
Yeah.
And it really stands out. It's not nearly as much as people think. They think anytime a play doesn't work, it was a bad play call. That's not the case. But there are times and there are bad play calls. I can't think of any off the top of my head unless I would watch it back that I was just like, that was just a terrible, terrible call. So I'm not saying that it was fixed. It was great, but it got the job done. I mean, and I'm going to say it like I've said about 16 times so far through this show. Boy, would I like to see it in the first three quarters.
Yes. What about you, Brian? Thoughts on Canada?
They got the win. If they did enough on offense to win the Cleveland game, which they didn't, that was his excuse. But he definitely did enough to win this game. He was the winning offensive coordinator, and I don't think there's really too much to complain about. They won.
I could go with a few less second and long runs, but other than that, I thought the game plan itself was a little bit more suited to the actual players' liking. Yeah, Dave.
Can I ask you anything? Any play stand out to you that you really liked in a good way? I have one.
That I liked?
Yeah. That you're
I love the misdirection to Connor Hayward.
That's the one I was going to say too. I thought that was a great play.
I thought he was in. I thought it was a touchdown. I thought it was an easy touchdown. But no. I also liked Kenny Pickett. And this isn't that Canada. I liked how he made the adjustment on the running touchdown to Najee Harris. Made everything look like it was going to flow to the right. Called the dive to the left, and it seemed to work. So. There you go. All right, let's get a couple here before we take a break. Todd Williams gave us $1.99. I don't see a comment there. Davey Steve,
I'll have to try to find that.
Good luck.
I skipped one really far ahead.
Okay. Tom Muir gives us another $5. Says, I'd still like to see more separation from the receivers. Be that ability or scheme, it needs to improve. Washington should be a red zone target. Hey, red zone was perfect tonight. Was it not, Dave? Was the red zone 3 for 3? That's what I thought. So,
Todd.
There we go. Hi, fellas. Keep up the great work. We have obviously had a ton of great defensive players over the years. Is TJ the best of them all? Well, we'll talk about that here in the second half for sure. And let's get this last one here. Topher Daniel gives us $1.99. Says Minkah Fitzpatrick was a missile today. He made his presence known in the run defense for sure. He was making plays, so that's a good observation. Okay. We're going to take a quick break. For those that are listening on the audio side, we'll hear a word from our sponsors. For those that are watching live on Twitter, YouTube, or Facebook, don't go anywhere because we're not going anywhere either. All right, we are back, and we're talking about the defense. We talked about the offense in the first half, play callers, all that good stuff. It is time to talk about the defense. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's look at the pass defense first in Matthew Stafford. He finishes 14 of 29, 231 yards, 8-yard average, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He was sacked twice for a 72.6 rating, but I want to talk about The pass defense, so we're not talking pass rush yet. I'm looking at safeties and cornerbacks. You have pass defenses. The Steelers only had 2. TJ Watt, one of them, interception. Joey Porter Jr. gets credited with another one. He came in and saw a definite significant playing time in this game. Was it as much as a lot of people wanted? No, but still, Levi Wallace, he was picked on again. As you look at the receiving numbers for Puka Nacua, my gosh, 8 catches on 12 targets for 154. I know Dave's going to talk about the 36-yard long. We'll get there. Tutu Atwell had 1 catch for 31 yards. Complete fluke of a play. That was not intended for him. And they keep Cooper Kupp to 2 catches on 29 yards. The drops, he had 2 in the first drive alone on 7 targets. So the theme of the season continues with the pass defense. One receiver goes off. Everyone else is kind of held to a minimum. We'll put it that way. Dave, what did you think about the pass defense?
All right. I want to read you something.
Okay.
0 for 4, 39.6 rating.
Is that on
the
third down
Rams
in
did
half?
not complete a pass in the fourth quarter.
Oh, wow. Did they
No
convert? Did they convert
quarter.
a third down?
In the fourth quarter?
I don't think so.
Hold on. I'm getting. Let me get to the team stats for the fourth.
Yeah, they did, because I believe it was a rushing one.
They had 1 rushing first down in the fourth quarter. They were 0 for 2 on third down.
What was it for the second half? Third down in general.
All right, give me just a second. In the second half, hold on. That didn't click on the right thing. All right, the second half, third down, both teams in the second half were 4 for 7, 57% in the second half.
Okay.
But the Rams, they were like 4 for 5 in the third quarter. Is that what it was? Yeah, 4 for 5 in the third quarter, where the Steelers were 1 for 2. But then you go to the fourth quarter where the Steelers were 3 for 5 and the Rams were 0 for 2.
So outside of that, what did you think of the pass defense?
Okay, got to get back to it now. Pass defense. Joey Porter Jr. is just doing exactly what they want him to do. I just wish they would want him. I just wish the situation would be right for him to be out there all the time. But I don't think they're always wanting to do that. It's just when they're doing what they want to do, they have Porter out there when it's what he does well. And I'm talking more, let him play man on a guy. That was nice to see him break up that pass to Nacua. He seemed like he was the only guy that did that. Pass defense, like you say, all but one guy. Some people said that Wallace was benched. Was he benched, or did they just start rotating stuff more? I would have to go through and look at it a little bit more. I don't know if he was or not. Do you guys know any idea of that?
I don't know if that was official or anything like that, but you did see a lot of Joey Porter Jr. in the second half. I know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, what about you, Brian? What did you think about the secondary pass defense?
I think they're bend, don't break. I would love to give them a pass on that Tutu Atwell fluke play, because Cooper Kupp was well covered and this guy just entered the picture. But I guess somebody should be looking at him.
Levi Wallace was on him, in all honesty.
Yeah,
that's who Levi Wallace was with. And then he started looking at the ball with the guy.
So yeah, then I can't give them a pass, because then it's on Levi there. I was just so perplexed. I went back and watched that play again. I was like, that's the weirdest thing I've ever seen, because it's not the weirdest thing, but you know what I'm saying? I think that they are bend, don't break. I think they're making it happen, but if you can go ahead and keep Cooper Kupp from killing you, try that 5 times fast. But if you can do that, then you have a lot of success. Puka Nacua, he's that guy that he doesn't get in the end zone a lot, but he's that guy that's going to get 10 catches a game. And he does some remarkable things. So with that, I think, I kind of downplayed him the other day, because when I talked to Rams Up, they were saying, hey, you stop Cooper Kupp, you're going to be good. What happened? But Nacua got really scary. He's going to be something special for that team. And I dropped him in week 2 for my fantasy team, just because I thought I could sneak it past, because I had to get somebody else in there because of an injury. But you should give me credit, though, because I started on my FanDuel team today, Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp. And when I do that against the Steelers, I lose every time, and the Steelers do well. So I'm going to start doing that more. I'm going to give away $5 every week to make sure to put against the Steelers competitors, just to make sure the Steelers win.
Let me ask y'all a question. This is what I want to say about Joey Porter Jr. So Joey Porter Jr. is a physical cornerback. He is going to play press man coverage. And I think that what's concerning to a lot of fans, and yes, he does get handsy. That was a knock on him coming out of Penn State. When was the last time the Steelers had a cornerback that was going to stand at the line of scrimmage and say, you know what, if you're going to beat me, you're going to have to physically get by me, and they're going to actually have the skills to stay with someone? Who was the last corner to do that?
Rod Woodson.
I mean, would Ike Taylor fit in that category?
Not to that level, I don't think.
Rod.
But
Yeah.
But even if you think about what you just said, a guy that played in the 90s in the Steelers. So all we've seen for the last decade plus is these soft zone, like the soft coverage, give them a 5 to 7 yard cushion. And okay, what have we always been saying? Oh my gosh, someone step up and play man. Someone step up and actually make them beat you. And I think that when we see Joey Porter doing what he's doing, it kind of is like, whoa, like, wait a second. We are not used to seeing this. And everything kind of looks like a flag. He's playing well. He's playing good football. Keep moving him forward. Is he going to have flags? Yes. They're going to throw defensive holdings, and he's going to get defensive pass interferences. But you know what? Sometimes you got to go through that as a rookie. And sometimes you want someone that's just going to be physical out there. I love what I'm seeing from Joey Porter Jr., Levi Wallace, status quo, nothing really to talk about there. If you can minimize the reliance on Patrick Peterson, you're doing your job. That's what I hope the Steelers are able to do. Okay, let's talk about the pass rush, who did sack Matthew Stafford 2 times. And I can't believe I forgot to mention this, but TJ Watt being a part of that secondary, getting an interception. You got to throw that in there. What a freaking play. Anyways, the sacks, you had.
That's what happens when you don't expect an outside linebacker to be there to break on a ball. Just turn back to Super Bowl 43.
That wasn't James Harrison dropping back and you throw it. He broke on the ball. He read the quarterback's eyes.
Yeah.
And really stepped. Definitely better than Levi Wallace.
Cussing that play because I seriously thought whoever it was, Nakua, I think it was Nakua, I thought he had that and he was going to outrun. And then I didn't realize, then I saw the camera going the other way. My eyes deceived me on that.
Yeah, that's crazy. I started screaming.
You screaming, go TJ, go TJ. That's what I'm screaming.
The kids come running out like, what's going on?
Go TJ. Because I was so afraid that if he didn't get the touchdown zone, they're going to settle for 3.
Very good point. Okay, so let's get let's talk about the pass rush. The Steelers had 2 sacks. Larry Ogunjobi with 1. Nick Herbig, his first sack of his NFL career, is pretty cool to see.
Oh, he embarrassed that tackle.
He did. He did. Quarterback hits. He only had 4. Keanu Benton with 2. And you had Larry O and Nick Herbig with the other. So TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith both were out of the quarterback hit and sack category. But I guarantee you, if you talk about hurries, which is not an official NFL statistic, you would see at least Highsmith have a couple.
You're going to see some pressures from both of those.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
so what'd y'all think of the pressure?
Yeah. Brian,
you want to go first?
There was a point that I thought they might have to get a restraining order just for harassment. I thought Matt Stafford did a good job of getting out of trouble a lot, but he also that intentional grounding, and there was another one that wasn't intentional grounding that it legitimately was not, but the broadcast team was questioning, hey, could that be? And they're like, no. But all I'm saying is you don't get a lot of sacks, but they definitely had a big impact on the game without the huge sacks. And I agree with you, Jeff, on hurries.
Dave, thoughts on the pass rush?
Matt Stafford is old. He's wise. He knows to not take hits. That's what he's going to do. So that's why you'll see whenever you get it from like Pro Football Focus or someone who looks at hurries and pressures and all that stuff, that you'll see a bigger number there whenever those numbers come out. But that's because that's what Stafford does. It's just how it works. But the overall pass rush, was there really any time? I'm getting confused with some times when I was watching earlier games where I was sitting there like, man, the quarterback's got all day to throw. I don't think that was ever the case in this whole game. Maybe once that I felt like, oh, that's more time than normal. So that's what you want to do. You don't want to have it be where the quarterback has time to get further down his progressions, especially if you're doing something like trying to lock down a Cooper Kupp, not letting him get all the way down to see if a Higbee's available or something like that. So I was content with the pass rush. The other thing was they didn't. Granted, it's Matt Stafford and he's old. You didn't have to worry about the quarterback breaking the pocket and burning you with his legs.
There was a couple sequences in the game where, and I finally put this on Twitter. For those that aren't Pittsburgh Penguins fans, and for those of you that haven't watched recently, in my opinion, the greatest play-by-play guy ever, Mike Lang, used to always say that the Penguins were buzzing like bees around a hive. It's just like you could just feel it coming. Like they're going to get there. And in that case, it was score a goal. But boy, you felt like the Steelers pass rush. They were like buzzing like bees around a hive. Like they're going to get to Matthew Stafford. They eventually did, or they forced some incompletions. They did what they had to do. It was good to see. Now, if there's one blemish on the ledger, it would have to be in the Steelers' rush defense.
Oh, wait. Can I say one more thing about the pass rush? On that, because I'm trying to think. The Rams had, 2 touchdown drives? Well, the one was the touchdown at the end of the half, then they had a touchdown in the second half. On that other one in the second half, which was aided by 2 bad calls, which we'll get to eventually. There was a play that completed the ball down. I'm pretty sure it might have set him up to and it put him in the red zone. It might have even been to end goal. Did you see TJ Watt in a chokehold?
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, yeah, I get that when you're blocking and they try to swim or something, you can slide, but it gets to a point where you just can't be choking the guy. Come on. So, okay, sorry.
So this is not no holds barred. Chokeholds are not allowed. Okay, let's look at the rushing for the Los Angeles Rams. These guys that they basically got off the street or from the practice squad. Royce Freeman, 12 for 66 yards. Darnell Henderson, 18 for 61 and a touchdown. As a team, they rushed for 135 yards, 31 carries, a 4.4-yard average. They were grinding it out. And I got to be honest, sometimes where I thought to myself, why would they try to throw the ball? Like, just keep running it. They're having success. I thought that Montravius Adams had a pretty good game. But Dave, what were your thoughts on the run defense?
Not good enough. I mean, you could almost see that the Steelers were so concerned about the Rams passing attack, they were willing to give up some yards on the ground. It almost seemed like they were trading that off. But if you look at it, it got better as the game went on. Let's go ahead and look at the totals by quarter. Rams, 47 yards in the first quarter. 47 yards on 6 runs for a 7.8 average. Second quarter, 32 yards on 10 carries, 3.2. Third quarter, about the same, 36 yards on 11 carries, 3.3. And then the fourth quarter, it was 5 yards a carry, but it was only 20 yards on 4 carries because they were able to shut them down. So the amount of rushing yards they gave up was going down as the game went on. But did you guys feel that way? That it almost felt like, hey, it's almost like the one thing we're not going to do is sell out on the run game and then let someone like Cooper Kupp really gash us. Wow, Nakua is as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, when your leading tackler is Minka Fitzpatrick, I mean, that tells you that he's having to come up and make a lot of defensive stops. And it was the fourth quarter, which is crazy. You guys talked about it already. The only first down they had in the fourth quarter was they were running it right down the Steelers' throat. I'm thinking, here we go. They're just going to just run it right down their throats all the way down the field, and then they'll throw to Cooper Kupp when he's basically uncoverable. But I don't know. Brian, what did you think?
Yeah, I kind of thought in this game that they were running it down their throat, and it was dangerous, but they weren't able to put a complete game rushing and passing. I also thought that I could have seen a few more flags, and I was just trying to look up to see how many holding penalties that they got. Now, there was one early on Kevin Dotson, made me smile. But as far as everything else goes, I thought there were a lot of holds in this game, even in the running game. But it wasn't good enough for the Rams. So were the Steelers great stopping the rush? No, but they stopped the ram.
It's a good point. It's a good point. We do have to talk about, I don't want to kind of shorten defense, but it was definitely the better of the two. We got to talk about special teams because I thought the Steelers had a great special teams day. When you talk about big press, Presley Harvin, his average might not show it, but he had some great punts. Flipped the field on
0
more than one
return
occasion.
yards.
Yeah, that's incredible. Like, that's really incredible. Chris Boswell was 1 for 1 field goals, 53 yards. And it's really more important when you look at the other side of the docket where Brett Mayer missed 2 field goals, only connected on a 41, and also missed the lone extra point that he had the attempt. People always say, like, oh, special teams doesn't matter when you miss 2 field goals. And that can be a really big difference in this game. The Steelers, again, just like it's very like I think it's kind of similar to the Ravens game with the drop passes they had. The Steelers just found a way to hang around. They got lucky with some missed kicks. Dave, any thoughts on special teams?
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers did what they needed to do. That anyone else feel was afraid we were looking at the wrong punt returner out there for a little bit, that it was maybe Gunner found a way to weasel himself into a different jersey when that was bobbled, the bobbled one. But no, he the smart thing is bring the ball in and then don't worry about returning it. Make sure you got it. He brought it in and then just dove forward, which is smart. But yeah, hopefully that's the worst we'll see from that.
Bryan, thoughts on special teams?
I'm always happy when the Steelers force a team into field goal attempts. And when they do miss, it means that that's not a 6. That's not a chance for the extra point. So the Steelers, they don't get gifts on missed extra points. They put them in position to have to kick that, especially that doink. That was from far away. I can't remember where the other one was. The missed extra point ended up not mattering.
They were both over 50, I'm pretty sure.
They were. Yeah.
And they don't have Chris Boswell, who is almost automatic at 50 now. At 50 plus, you don't worry about it. You start worrying about Boswell when it's 55 plus now. It just seems like that's when you start worrying about him. But he's in that Tucker stratosphere right now. But let's go back and look at that extra point. It meant nothing when they go ahead and get the 2-point conversion from Cooper Kupp. So at the end of the game, I think Daryl Johnson was like, 2 missed field goals and an extra point will kill you. Yeah. 2 missed field goals don't help, but when they're 50 plus, that means the defense put them in that position that they couldn't go any further.
Did they, Dave and Bryan, I know one of those missed field goals got turned into points. Was the second?
I believe.
I think the first one turned into the Steelers field goal.
I think it did.
Yes.
Hold on. Let me see.
That was the one I knew. I knew
the
for
Steelers
sure
field goal. Yeah, the Steelers field goal. What came from the drive started by a missed field goal, and the other missed field goal turned into a touchdown.
So that means they had 3 technical turnovers, turnover on downs, missed field goals. All 3 had points off of turnovers because obviously TJ's interception. And Dave, the stat continues. They win the turnover battle, and what happens?
Oh, there's even more stats. You ready for this one?
Sure, go for it.
When the Steelers allow their opponent to score a touchdown on their opening drive this year, they are 0-2. When they hold them to a punt or a takeaway, they are 4-0.
That's the opening drive.
The opening drive defense. When the defense is out there for the first drive.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Okay. It's good stuff. Let's get to some super chats here, and then
I want to talk. Then I want to talk.
I know,
referees.
I know you want to talk about refs. All right, let's go here. 5 pounds, I think, from is it Lane Covell or Ian? I'm not sure. I'm sorry. Said rather than penalties offsetting, shouldn't it be a spot foul and an automatic first down for the defensive pass interference? Then after the play, taunting.
That's what I thought.
With first down back 15. They had to redo that 3rd and 7, which was bogus in my opinion. Now, yes, they converted it to Allen Robinson, I do believe, but still the play counts. Defensive pass interference on the play, first down. Then there's a 15-yard penalty. It's a dead ball penalty, which moves the line of scrimmage. I agree. I think that was a botch call.
I'm trying to, if there's no penalty on the defense, the play stands, they move it back 15 yards and it's 1st and 10. But because there was a play on the defense, it could offset rather than do that. That's one I'm going to have to look up. But if there was no play, let's say there was no penalty for pass interference, but it was just a completion, and then they made that call, that's would have been what happened. But that was after the play, and things that happened during the play versus after the play are supposed to be different things.
Very true. Let's get Nate Van Slyke gives us $2. Said, I missed the TJ pick for a nap. Come on, Nate. Come on, man. I know you're taking a halftime nap, but you set the alarm for 10 minutes and wake up. Like, come on.
Yeah. It's a 12-minute halftime. You got this. It's okay.
Wilson Pava gives us $1.99. Said Big Press came up big. Is he the best in the NFL? I don't know. Guys wanted him cut in the preseason.
We're after week 1.
All right, Dave, you want to talk? You want to rail on the officiating? So go
Okay.
ahead.
Well, I will tell you this. The Steelers, they made a big deal after the Steelers scored the Jaylen Warren touchdown that, it was the first 3-and-out they forced by the Rams. The Steelers had a 3-and-out earlier in the game that they called TJ Watt lining up in the neutral zone. Notice they didn't show any shot down the line. Do you know how many times I saw Alex Highsmith with his feet in the right spot, but his head over that blue line? Do you know how many times I saw that from the Rams? That is one of those plays you could call every play if the official wanted to. Kind of like offensive holding, that they said you could call holding every play if you wanted to do so. But they chose to do that on a 3rd down to give the Rams a chance for their drive to keep going. Now, that was one. The other thing is that this really does bug me. And my brother, he kept texting me. He was furious. And people say, Mike Tomlin with a bad challenge. That was not a bad challenge. He had no choice but to make the call to throw it or not.
Had to do it.
Had to do it then. He didn't win it. Just because you don't win it means that it's a bad challenge. Now, the problem was it was a terrible call. And I don't know if it was as bad because we didn't even get the explanation on TV that they just said that it stands. We didn't hear the official say anything. But this is why I can't stand Fox. Fox, with their explanation of everything, they did not show that entire play. As soon as they saw, there's his toe and there's some green and everything. Let me read something to you. I'm going to read something to you here real quick, so that way I don't have to scroll back and say it. This
better be an article tomorrow, by the way.
It will.
It's SteelCurtainNetwork.com.
It will. Later in the day. I got to do the numbers for the morning. Rule 3, Section 2, Article 7 of the NFL rulebook. To gain possession of a loose ball that has been caught, intercepted, or recovered, a player, A, must have complete control of the ball with his hands or arms, and B, have both feet or any body part or any part of his body other than his hands completely on the ground in bounds. People are saying, it's a toe tap thing. A toe tap is only if your toe is the only thing that touches. If you touch with your toe and then your toe comes off the ground, that's a toe tap. That was not a toe tap play. They wouldn't show it. You actually saw it like going to a commercial break. You could see the whole thing. His heel came down and hit the line. Because his toe doesn't come off the ground and it's a 3rd step, that's out of bounds. It doesn't matter that his toe was down and you can see green. If any other part of his foot comes down, it has to be down in bounds. It's the same kind of thing that happens all the time in the end zone. We've seen it before with a I'm trying to remember. Why am I thinking it was like a Miami tight end a couple years ago, caught the ball in the back of the end zone up on his toes, but then his heel came down out of bounds. Well, both of his toes were in and you could see the green, but his foot continued down and hit out of bounds. He's out of bounds. That's the rule. And the thing is, maybe his heel didn't hit out of bounds. Maybe it was so close they couldn't tell. But the stupid TV wouldn't even go as far as you needed to go to see the whole play. You're trying to judge something on only part of the play. You have to see the whole play. So that whole thing about them not being able to challenge at the end and it was a bad spot. The officials were bad both ways the whole freaking game. So, all right. So I'm done.
Is that your final thoughts?
Oh, no, that's not my final thoughts.
While we're talking on officiating, Bryan, anything you want to talk about?
And my buddy Chris in the live chat agrees with me. Thanks, Chris.
There you go.
Nah, I'm good.
Okay. So this is the win, and we're at the hour mark, and let's finish up with some final thoughts here. Dave, go ahead.
The Steelers are 4-2. The Steelers are 4-2. That's a great place to be at this point of the season. Do they have a lot of warts? Yes, they do. Can they work on fixing those warts? Yes, they can. They can get some good wart remover and get rid of them, hopefully. But the key is, even though they have them, they are still finding a way to win. Yes, I say I'd love to see the offense go for 4 quarters rather than just the fourth quarter. But it's still able to do it while getting a win. And a win is a win is a win. 4-2, baby. Let's go.
Well said. Bryan, final thoughts.
Yes, I picked the Rams to win. Probably going to pick the Jaguars next week. I have no problem doing that. I will eat crow all you want me to eat. I have no problem with that. I love this team, but I needed to see more. And I said this on the preview the other day. Until you show me more, until you show me that you can score on offense, I'm probably not going to believe. Well, I saw 3 offensive touchdowns today. Granted, I'm not going to discount the Kenny Pickett touchdown because they started on the 6-yard line. They still got in. That's still an offensive touchdown. I'm going to take it. But even if you take that one away, which you shouldn't, they scored 2 touchdowns. They did a lot on defense. They did stuff on offense that looked different. And yes, I'm going to continue to sing about Deontay Johnson because Deontay Johnson changed the look of that game completely. The Rams had no tape to look at that included Deontay Johnson. And that made things, no, they have old tape. They know what they're going to see with Deontay Johnson. But it's not like they're the Ravens, Bengals, or Browns that see him twice a year and know all about this guy. I just know that it makes that team so much better, and I'm going to stick to it. So do I believe in this team a little bit more? Yeah, but I need to know more. And I'm just superstitious. So I'm probably going to pick Jacksonville this week as just a tool. And if you think I'm a tool for doing it, I don't have a problem. I'll be your hammer.
To wrap things up here, let's do this. We'll do that. Andrew Palladino gives us another $4.99. Thank you very much. May the great master of all Steeler Nation be with us until we meet again in week 8. Good night, Steeler fans. And here we go. Thank you very much. For me, I just think that if you think about the alternative, the Steelers are struggling and they can't find their way on offense, and the defense is sporadic at times and impactful, but yet being worn down based on the offense. This team could be 2-4, but they're not. Like, they're 4-2. And so unless this team is just going to completely meander through these waters and have no clue where they're going and never find their way, then this is what we're going to have for the rest of the year, which is a team that's going to be in a lot of games and might win some close ones and might lose some close ones. There's also a chance, though, that there's so much room for improvement that, my gosh, like, they could take some serious strides here, and it wouldn't even be anything crazy. We're just talking about, like, first drive of the game. Najee Harris gets 8 yards, and then you actually get 2 more and get a first down instead of 3 and out. So there are so many areas where this team can improve, and it's not crazy to see them improving quickly. I think that we as fans should be happy that they are 4-2 for as poorly as they're playing. So they're 4-2. Like, this is incredible. I can't believe this team is 4-2, but they are. So we should celebrate. We should enjoy all these wins. And that's what this post-game show is all about. Make sure you're checking out all of our podcasts, not just the ones that are on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, but also on the Steel Curtain Network audio-only feed. That's my Let's Ride podcast tomorrow, where I'll dive into winners and losers. Bryan's Bad Language. Dave will be on this Thursday with another Steelers Stat Geek. Check us out. You'll love it. I guarantee it. In the meantime, we will see you next weekend. Is it a 1 o'clock start, Dave?
Oh, yeah.
Jacksonville?
When God intended NFL football to be played.
Hey, the Steelers win. They're 4-2. Enjoy it, everyone. And we will see you next week on another post-game show. Take it easy.
How could I go on? Network. Get it.
Everybody else gets a little tight.